These fiery discs could be the arrival of alien beings.
This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Trailer to Reaction. What I've been watching recently is Unsealed, Alien Files, which is the most frustrating television show I think I've ever seen. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. It is really irritating, and yet I find it fascinating, which is why I don't stop watching it, no matter how much it bothers me. And I wanted to take a look today at one of the segments of this series from the first season, episode 14, and it's called Akhenaten, the Alien King.
Unsealed case file. Akhenaten, the Alien King.
Oh God, this makes me
Pharaoh
ill.
Akhenaten IV became ruler of Egypt in 1353 BC. But 5 years into his reign, he changed his name to Akhenaten, the living spirit of Aten.
In Egyptian mythology, Aten is described as this solar disk, sometimes depicted with hands and rays coming out of it. And this makes Akhenaten the living embodiment of that sun disk.
That's fine, and that's probably true based on how they believed. As I said, I am not an archaeologist nor a historian, but I have read about Egypt before, and that makes sense. By their reckoning, he was indeed the embodiment of the sun. I have no issue with that. That's just a religious tenet they followed. It's fine. Though the bullshit is coming, trust me.
Akhenaten ruled for 17 years, changing the traditional religion of the land to only worship Aten. According to the king, Aten, the sun disk, was more powerful than mere gods.
Sure, I mean, he is overriding, if you will, past religious practices with his own. Sure, his god is more powerful than other gods. That seems fairly commonsensical, but wait, it's coming, trust me.
Because Akhenaten was able to come in and change all of the beliefs of Egypt in a matter of just years, that tells me that there's some connection between him and this deity.
Didn't I tell you the bullshit was coming? He changed the religion in a matter of years. Now, keep in mind, that speaker does not say how long that process took. Akhenaten ruled for 17 years. If it took 5 years, 10 years to convert everyone's belief system to his, so what? It has nothing to do with some entity, some godlike being. It has to do with Akhenaten being the pharaoh as well as the person who controls the army, among other things. It's just silly to imply anything else.
And if we believe in the idea that Aten was some sort of extraterrestrial being,
We do not believe Aten was some sort of extraterrestrial. Why would we believe that? There is no evidence nor anything presented that would bring that conclusion to mind. The ludicrous logic of these people is astounding. Why would anyone believe that? There is nothing that has been shown that would illustrate that point.
that Aten was some sort of extraterrestrial being, then perhaps Akhenaten was actually offspring.
Hieroglyphics of Akhenaten reveal him to be anything but normal.
Hieroglyphics of Akhenaten revealed him to be anything but normal. Notice how he said it with such dread in his voice, implying that there is something more to his appearance. And there is. The man was not the healthiest person on earth, and he suffered from some sort of physical ailment, more than likely. The idea that you would jump to the child of aliens is just so ludicrous. And, as usual, Alien Files gives no evidence to support that conclusion.
His arms and fingers are long and slender. His chin stretches low, and his head strangely elongated.
Certain characteristics of these aliens would be portrayed in the genetic structure of the royal family, and one of those is cranial elongation.
Oh my god. Do you hear how ludicrous this person is? The idea that certain traits of aliens would appear in the lineage of the royal family is dumb, because there are no aliens that we've found as of yet, and there's nothing that would make one assume, unless one believed this nuttiness, that Akhenaten and his relations were aliens or the spawn of aliens.
Genetic structure of the royal family, and one of those is cranial elongation.
Analysis of Akhenaten's skull has led researchers to imagine a head of inhuman length and eyes of
notice the words again! Head of inhuman length. What bullshit! And it's not only bullshit, it's leading bullshit, because if something is inhuman, it must not be human. Therefore, inhuman. This is nonsense, and it's manipulative nonsense at that.
led researchers to imagine a head of inhuman length and eyes of unusual size. This trait was also seen in daughters of the pharaoh, as well as his famous son, King Tutankhamun. But could this family have descended from an extraterrestrial race?
Skeptics believe that Akhenaten's skull shape could be the result of skull binding, or tying something around the head to misshape it on purpose. But there's absolutely no evidence that supports that Akhenaten's skull shape has anything to do with skull binding.
And there's no evidence that the shape of Akhenaten's skull has anything to do with aliens at all. But let's assume that, as opposed to something relatively simple like skull binding, which is very possible, and people did. Let's just go with the most irrational conclusion ever.
Anything to do with skull binding.
Some claim Akhenaten and his descendants suffered from a biological disorder. But alien theorists insist the explanation lies in something far more shocking.
There is no such thing as an alien theorist, as they're using the word. It's people who make up bizarre shit for reasons. I don't understand it. But there is no such thing as an alien theorist in the context that they're using the word.
Could Akhenaten, in fact, have been the first recorded attempt at alien-human hybridization?
Probably not. There's no evidence anywhere that would support that conclusion.
Human hybridization.
If an alien race were dying, how would they invade another planet to sustain their race, to keep themselves alive through successive generations? One way would be to hybridize with that species, to create a new species, a synthesis of that species and their own, and therefore their civilization could be sustained.
I sometimes wonder how it is that people fall for things like Scientology, or to be honest, most religions. I see why. You take something that is real and you build a foundation of bullshit so thick, the real thing is just gone.
If aliens were successful in interbreeding with humans, their genes could still be present in the human race today. But where did they come from? And where did they go? The answer may be within messages left behind at their greatest achievement.
Yeah, that's kind of bullshit too. You can see why this is entertaining in its own perverse way, I imagine. It's just ridiculous speculations and just nonsense. That I enjoy watching this, I think, is an indictment on me more than anything else, because it's just plain dumb. So what do you think? This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Trailing to Reaction. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like or follow. Peace.